I want you to experience consequences. Just once. I want you to feel what it's like when no one comes to save you. My voice doesn't waver as I say these words to my mother, whose mascara-streaked face seems to collapse further with each syllable. Behind her, my father stands frozen in their living room, the collection notice trembling in his hand. $300,000. The price of Valerie's extravagant renewal wedding. The price of 30 years of being the family's financial safety net. The price of my freedom. We're your parents, my mother whispers, reaching for my arm. I step back, feeling the strange weightlessness that comes with finally cutting a cord that's been strangling you for decades. Yes, and you taught me everything I know about family loyalty. I turn to leave their aging colonial home, the home they're about to lose, along with the lake house that was supposed to be my inheritance. My father's voice, thinner than I remember, calls after me. Catherine, please, your mother's blood pressure. I pause at the doorway, not turning back. Funny how my financial health never concerned either of you. The door closes behind me with a finality that echoes through my bones. In my car, I sit motionless, hands gripping the steering wheel as 55 years of being the strong one, the responsible one. The family ATM crystallized into something hard and clear within me. My phone buzzes. Valerie, using yet another new number. Mom's hysterical because of you. Dad might need to go to the hospital. How could you be so cruel? I start the engine, a strange calmness washing over me. The satisfaction of finally saying no tastes better than I ever imagined. Flashback 6 months earlier. 6 months earlier, I stood in the shadows of the grand ballroom, watching my sister twirl in her $30,000 custom wedding dress while my sanity frayed at the edges. The crystal chandeliers caught every sparkle of her tiara, and her laughter echoed off the marble floors, the same practiced laugh she'd used 3 months ago when she'd begged me to co-sign her loan. Catherine, darling, why aren't you dancing? My mother Margaret's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval that had been my lifelong companion. She gestured to the crowded dance floor where Valerie and her husband of 30 years, Brian, were lost in their performance of marital bliss. Someone has to make sure the vendors get paid, I replied, tapping my tablet. Unless you'd like to handle the final payments? She wrinkled her nose and adjusted her designer shawl, another gift from Valerie, undoubtedly purchased with Brian's latest investor funds. At 78, my mother still maintained the careful appearance of upper-middle-class prosperity, despite the mountains of debt hidden beneath the facade. That's what you're good at, dear. Numbers. Valerie's always been our creative spirit. I bit back the response I'd been swallowing for 55 years. The response that would point out how this creative spirit had drained our family's resources for decades while I quietly built my career, paid my taxes, and came running every time there was a crisis. When I was 22, a voice whispers in my memory. Oh, Mom said they needed my college fund for Valerie's art school tuition. You're the smart one, Catherine. You'll be fine without it. Valerie needs this opportunity, and I push the memory away and pull up the loan document on my screen, checking for the 100th time that the clause is still there, buried in the fine print like a landmine. My friend Teresa, a divorce attorney with a gift for ironclad contracts, had helped me draft it. In the event of default, should the primary borrowers leave the country without establishing a payment plan, all liability transfers to the original co-signing sponsors. Remember when she first showed us the venue? My mother continued, misreading my silence for nostalgia. She just knew it had to be here. Worth every penny. Every penny. She trails off, perhaps finally hearing the absurdity of her own words. 50,000 of them for the venue alone. I finished for her. 300,000 in total. My mother waved her hand dismissively. It's their 30th anniversary renewal celebration. A once-in-a-lifetime event. Like Dad's heart surgery 5 years ago, I think but don't say. Or a once-in-a-lifetime medical crisis that drained my retirement fund while Valerie posted selfies from Paris, captioned, "Finding myself in the city of light. Hash blessed regrets. Peace. Catherine." Valerie had sobbed 3 months ago, mascara running down her cheeks in the exact same pattern I'd seen since we were children. The bank won't approve us without a cosigner. You're the only one with good enough credit. That's because I actually pay my bills, I'd said. It's what family does. Our father had chimed in from his armchair, not looking up from his newspaper. The same newspaper he'd hidden behind during every crisis, every confrontation, every moment that required actual parenting. Your sister would do the same for you. I'd almost laughed at that. Valerie had never done anything for anyone except herself. I'll pay every payment, I swear, Valerie had promised, clutching my hands. Brian's new startup is about to take off and will be loaded. Please, please, please. Now I watch Brian whisper something in Valerie's ear, making her giggle. He catches my eye across the room and raises his champagne glass with a wink. I raise mine back, wondering if he knows about the clause yet, wondering if either of them actually read the paperwork before signing it. In the sharp clarity of hindsight, I can see now that I'd been setting this trap my entire adult life, collecting receipts, documenting loans, building evidence for a reckoning I never thought I'd have the courage to trigger. Mrs. Foster, a wedding planner materializes beside me. The photographer wants to know if we're still doing the sunset photos on the terrace. Of course we are. Valerie appears, dragging Brian by the hand. Catherine, you're in these too. You have to. You made all this possible. If she only knew how true that was. At the terrace, the setting sun painted everything gold, including Valerie's perfect face as she posed against the balustrade. At 52, my sister was still strikingly beautiful, her body maintained through religious devotion to trainers and nutritionists, her face subtly enhanced by the best procedures money, usually someone else's, could buy. Our parents joined us, and the photographer arranged us like dolls. The happy family. The perfect wedding. The American dream. Closer together, the photographer called. Big smiles. This is a celebration. I smiled, thinking about the email I'd received that morning from Teresa. It's bulletproof, she'd written. The clause is active the moment they miss a payment. If they leave the country without setting up a payment plan, liability reverts to the original sponsors. Your parents. They signed it too, remember? I remembered. I remembered every signature, every tear-filled manipulation, every guilt trip that had led to this moment. One more, the photographer called. Everyone say, happily ever after. Valerie threw her arms around me, champagne on her breath. I love you so much, sis. You're the best, the absolute best. Over her shoulder, I watched Brian check his phone, his face momentarily serious before he slipped it back into his pocket. 3 weeks ago, I'd seen him book 2 one-way tickets to a country with no extradition treaty. He didn't know I knew. When I was 30, the memory rises unbidden. I postponed buying my first home to help cover Dad's heart medication. Just until we get back on our feet, Mom had promised. They never got back on their feet, and Valerie never offered a dime. She's just starting her design career, Mom explained. She can't afford to help right now. I was just starting my accounting career then. Somehow, that fact didn't matter. In my hotel room that night, I opened my laptop one final time. The loan agreement glowed on the screen, signatures clear at the bottom. Valerie's loopy scroll, Brian's confidence, my parents' hasty scribbles, and my own careful print below them all. The clause waited like a coiled snake. My phone buzzed, a text from Valerie. Thank you for everything. You're the best sister anyone could ask for. Love you forever. I didn't reply. Instead, I closed my laptop and poured myself a drink. The real wedding gift was still coming, and I intended to be very, very patient while I waited to deliver it. 6 months later, brunch restaurant. 6 months after the wedding, I sat in my favorite brunch restaurant, staring at my phone's call log. 32 attempted calls to Valerie, 16 to Brian, and 48 unanswered text messages. The first loan payment was 3 weeks overdue. You're obsessing again, Teresa said, sliding into the seat across from me with 2 fresh mimosas. At 53, my best friend since college had the sharp eyes of a woman who had built her career helping women escape bad marriages. She understood toxic relationships better than most therapists. I picked up my phone, opened Instagram, and turned it to show her. Valerie's latest post showed her and Brian on some tropical beach, cocktails in hand. The caption read, "Living our best life, debt-free and destiny-bound." Hash blessed, hash no regrets, hash 30 years strong. Theresa's perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table. You knew this would happen. Knowing doesn't make it sting less. I switched to my messages. Look what my mother sent this morning. The text read, "The bank called again. Please handle this, Catherine. You know how your father's blood pressure gets when he's stressed. Have you told them about the clause yet?" Teresa asked, sipping her drink. Not yet. I'm waiting for. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Valerie. I put it on speaker. Hey sis. Sorry I've been so hard to reach. The Wi-Fi here is just awful. Listen, about those payment notices you keep forwarding, I know you'll figure it out. You always do. You're so good with money stuff anyway. Love you. Don't work too hard. Theresa's eyes widened. The audacity. Wait for it, I said, holding up a finger. The message continued. Oh, and could you maybe stop calling so much? It's kind of desperate, and Brian says it's bringing down our vibe. Thanks, kisses. And when I was 45, the memory slices through me. I sat alone in my apartment after my divorce from Michael. He just couldn't handle your family, Teresa had said. She wasn't wrong. The final straw had been when we'd had to cancel our anniversary trip because Valerie had been arrested for drunk driving and needed bail money. She's your sister, my mother had insisted on the phone. What kind of person are you if you can't help family in crisis? I deleted the voicemail while Teresa muttered something unprintable. You sure you want to go through with this? She asked. Legally, you're safe. Morally, let them drown. It's not about them drowning, I said, pulling up my email. It's about making sure everyone gets wet. My phone buzzed again. My mother. Catherine, please call me. The bank is being very insistent. I showed Teresa the draft email I'd prepared for the loan agency. Attached was the contract with the clause highlighted, along with proof of Valerie and Brian's departure from the country. Send it, Teresa said firmly. Stop torturing yourself. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the send button. In that moment, I saw my life stretch before me, decades more of being the family's safety net, decades more of watching Valerie get rewarded for her irresponsibility while I was taken for granted for my stability. You've been their emergency fund for 30 years, Teresa said softly. You've paid for your father's surgeries, your mother's credit card debt, Valerie's bail, Brian's failed business ventures. You postponed your own life, your own dreams. When does it end? When does it end? The question echoed in my head like a bell. My phone lit up with another Instagram notification. Valerie had posted again. Some people just can't handle seeing others living their dreams. Hash toxic family, hash boundaries, hash blessed. I hit send. Done, I said, feeling oddly hollow. Now we wait. Teresa raised her coffee cup. To karma. To contracts. I corrected, clinking my cup against hers. In the office. That evening, I sat in my office, watching the sunset through my window when my phone rang. It was Michael, my ex-husband. I just saw Valerie's posts, he said without preamble. Are you okay? Are you? Why wouldn't I be? I kept my voice neutral. Michael had been there during the medical bills crisis, had watched me empty my savings for my father's heart surgery while Valerie took a spontaneous trip to Europe. Because you always take care of everyone, he said softly, and no one ever takes care of you. I thought about the email I'd sent, about the clause that would soon detonate in my parents' lap. That's changing. Good, he said. It's about time. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and checked my email. The loan agency had already responded. Dear Ms. Catherine, we acknowledge receipt of your documentation regarding the liability reassignment clause. Our legal team will review and proceed accordingly. Expect contact within 48 hours. My phone buzzed one final time, a text from Brian. Real nice, Catherine. Valerie's crying. Hope you're happy. I typed back. You should have read the fine print. Then I blocked both their numbers, poured myself a glass of wine, and pulled up the folder where I'd kept every receipt, every transfer, every record of money I'd given to my family over the years. The total could have bought me a house. Instead, It had bought me this moment, waiting for the hammer to fall on the people who had taken me for granted for so long. My mother's words echoed in my head. It's what family does. I smiled into my wine glass. Yes, mother. This is exactly what family does. Flashback 3 months before the wedding. The memory of drafting the clause was still crystal clear. I'd sat in Theresa's downtown condo 3 months before the wedding, surrounded by takeout containers and legal documents, while she connected me with her lawyer friend on speakerphone. You want it ironclad, the lawyer had said, something they can't wiggle out of. Teresa had topped off my wine glass. Tell him about the medical bills again. $28,000, I'd said. My entire savings gone because Valerie needed a trip to find herself the same month Dad needed surgery. The words felt like stones in my mouth, heavy with decades of accumulated resentment. And the college fund. Teresa prompted. Borrowed, never returned, I continued, feeling the old anger rise. Valerie's art school dream was apparently more important than my MBA. The lawyer had hummed thoughtfully. We can work with this. The key is making it seem benign enough that they'll sign without questioning but specific enough to be legally binding. Later that night, as Teresa drove me home, she'd asked the question I'd been avoiding. Why now after all these years? You've been their doormat since college. What changed? I'd stared out the window at the city lights blurring past. Last month, I found Mom's old journal. There was an entry from when I was 17, right before college applications were due. She wrote, Catherine will be fine no matter what. She's the strong one. She doesn't need the same opportunities as Valerie. Jesus, Teresa had muttered. They decided who I was before I had a chance to become anyone, I'd said, the realization still fresh and painful. They cast me as the responsible one, the fixer, the safety net. And then they used that role to justify taking and taking and taking. So this is what? Revenge? I thought about it for a long moment. No, it's liberation. At the office, the confrontation. Now, sitting at my desk at work, I pulled up the final version we'd crafted. In the event of default, should the primary borrower leave the country without establishing a payment plan, all liability transfers to the original co-signing sponsors who acknowledge full responsibility for the remaining balance. Simple. Clean. Devastating. My office phone rang. Catherine speaking. The clause is active. It was Teresa. Just got word from legal. Your parents are being contacted today. I checked my email. Sure enough, there was a message from the loan agency. Per Section 7.3 of the agreement, liability has been transferred to Margaret and Richard. Initial contact will be made within 24 hours. How long do you think until? Teresa started. My cell phone lit up with my mother's number. Got to go, I said. It's starting. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello, Mother. What is this? Her voice was shrill. These people are saying we owe $300,000. This must be a mistake. No mistake. Check your email. I sent you a copy of the contract you signed. But I heard papers rustling. We didn't. We only signed as witnesses. Read section 7.3. I said calmly, my heart pounding in my chest despite my measured tone. More rustling, then silence. You tricked us, she whispered. No, Mother. I learned from the best. Remember what you told me when I hesitated to drain my savings for Dad's surgery? It's what family does. Think of your father's blood pressure. That was different. She cried. Different how? Because it was my money being spent instead of yours? We'll be ruined, she sobbed. The house, the lake property, our retirement. You'll be fine, I said, the words tasting like bitter chocolate on my tongue, just like it was fine when I paid for his surgery while Valerie was posting selfies from Paris. That was different. She needed to find herself. Yes, I remember. Now you need to find $300,000. She started crying, that particular wounded animal sound that used to devastate me, used to send me running to fix whatever problem she was facing. Now it just made me tired. We'll call Valerie, she said between sobs. She'll make this right. I laughed, the sound foreign to my own ears. Good luck with that. Her number's disconnected. This isn't you, Catherine. You're not this cruel. Actually, this is me. The real me. The one who's done being everyone's ATM. The line went quiet except for her ragged breathing. Finally, she spoke in a whisper. What do you want? I paused, considering the question seriously. What did I want after all these years? I want you to pay the debt you signed for. I want you to face consequences. I want you to feel what it's like to be responsible for once. We're your parents. Yes. And you taught me everything I know about family loyalty. I hung up and turned my phone off. Through my office window, I could see the city sprawling out below, people rushing about their days, dealing with their own dramas and betrayals. But for perhaps the first time in my adult life, I felt strangely separate from the weight of obligation. I had cut the cord, and now I was floating free. My computer pinged with a new email from Valerie, sent from a new address. You controlling bitch. You always want to win. Happy now. Mom's hysterical, Dad's chest hurts, and it's all your fault. I never should have trusted you. You're dead to me. I forwarded it to Teresa with just 3 words, worth every penny. Her response came quickly. Your sister's about to learn that karma takes credit cards. I opened my bottom drawer and pulled out an old photo. The last family vacation we'd taken together before my father's first heart attack. Valerie in the center, as always. Our parents beaming at her, me on the edge, checkbook in hand, paying the hotel bill. Like a stone tablet carved with hieroglyphics, the photo told the story of our family dynamic with perfect clarity. Valerie, the sun around which we all orbited. Our parents, her most devoted planets. And me, the distant moon, useful only for the light I could reflect back and the tides I could control. My office door opened. It was my junior associate looking nervous. Ms. Catherine, I need a favor. Could you co-sign on the Miller account? It's just a formality. I looked at him, then at the photo, then back at him. No, I said. I don't co-sign anything anymore. He blinked, surprised by my directness. But it's just a standard procedure. So is paying your own bills, I said, turning back to my computer. Try that first. As he left, I picked up my phone and turned it back on 12 missed calls from my parents, 5 new emails from Valerie, 1 text from Teresa. How does it feel? I typed back, like freedom. At Catherine's office, the mother's visit. The collection agency didn't waste any time. 3 days after the clause activation, my mother showed up at my office unannounced, mascara streaking down her face. They're threatening to put a lien on our house, she said, dropping into the chair across from my desk. Your childhood home, Catherine. I kept typing, not looking up. The same house you remortgaged to pay for Valerie's art school? That childhood home? That was different. She had potential. The words hit me like a physical blow, but I kept my face neutral. And I didn't? Is that why you took my college fund? We borrowed it, she said weakly. Borrowing implies returning. I pulled up an old spreadsheet. Would you like to see the exact amount with interest? My office phone buzzed. Ms. Catherine, your 2 p.m. is here. Tell them 5 minutes. I turned back to my mother. The collection agency is actually being quite reasonable. They'll accept payment plans. She dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, probably another of Valerie's expensive gifts bought with someone else's money. Your father can barely sleep. He keeps checking our accounts, trying to find money that isn't there. Like I did when he needed surgery? I asked quietly. She flinched. That was years ago. Why are you still holding on to that? Because someone has to remember. Someone has to keep the receipts. My phone lit up with a text from Valerie. Mom's crying because of you again. You're such a controlling bitch. You always want to win. Happy now. When I was 35, I remembered suddenly and I canceled my vacation to help Mom after her minor surgery. Valerie never even called. She's busy with her career, Mom had explained. And you know how emotional she gets in hospitals. I showed the message to my mother. Your perfect daughter sends her regards. She's scared, my mother said. She's still young. She's 52. I was 24 when I paid Dad's medical bills. But you're stronger. You can handle these things. She said it automatically, the familiar refrain that had defined our relationship since childhood. I leaned back in my chair, letting her words hang in the air. That's interesting, Mother. Tell me more about how being taken advantage of makes me strong. She stood up suddenly, her chair scraping against the floor. I didn't raise you to be this cruel. You didn't raise me at all. You were too busy enabling Valerie. We'll lose everything, she whispered. No, you'll lose what you put at risk when you signed that contract. There's a difference. What do you want from us? Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I saw not my manipulative mother, but an old woman facing the consequences of decades of poor choices. I finally smiled. I want you to experience consequences. Just once. I want you to feel what it's like when no one comes to save you. My phone buzzed again, a video call from Valerie. I answered it, putting it on speaker. You evil witch. Valerie's face was red with rage. Mom just called me sobbing. How could you do this to them? The same way you did it to me, I replied calmly, except I used a contract instead of tears. We're family. Exactly. And this is what family does, remember? Behind Valerie, I could see Brian pacing, talking rapidly on his phone. He looked worried. Having visa troubles? I asked innocently. Valerie's eyes widened. How did you? It's amazing what happens when your credit score tanks and there's an international debt notice with your name on it. My mother gasped. You didn't. I didn't do anything, I said. Consequences. Isn't that what you always told me, Mother? Right before asking me to fix another one of Valerie's mistakes, Valerie's face crumpled. They're going to revoke our visas. Brian's business deals are falling apart. Everything we built here. You built nothing. I cut in. You ran away from debt and responsibility like you always do. The only difference is this time there's no one to clean up your mess. Girls. My mother pleaded. We can fix this, Catherine, if you just pay. No. I stood up. My 2 p.m. is waiting. You both know where the door is. Valerie sobbed. I'm your sister. Funny how that only matters when you need something. I ended the call and turned to my mother. The collection agency's number is on the letter they sent you. I suggest you call them before they call you again. She walked to the door, then turned back. You'll regret this someday when you need your family. I've needed my family many times, I said. Where were you? After she left, I sat in my quiet office, hands shaking slightly despite my outward calm. The confrontation had gone exactly as I'd planned, yet I felt hollow rather than triumphant. Was this victory? This empty space where family obligation used to reside? My phone buzzed with a text from Teresa. Drinks tonight? You look like you need them. I typed back. Bring wine and the contract. I want to frame it. Another text came through. This one from my father. We thought you wouldn't actually go through with it. I responded with a single line. That's always been your problem. Then I turned off my phone, straightened my desk, and called in my 2 p.m. After all, I had actual work to do. Bills don't pay themselves. Just ask my family. At the parents' house, the family dinner. The forced family dinner was my mother's idea. Sunday dinner like old times, she'd said on the phone, her voice dripping with false sweetness. We need to discuss this situation like adults. I arrived exactly on time to find my parents already seated at their dining room table, a spread of my favorite childhood dishes laid out like emotional ammunition. Your father made your favorite lasagna, my mother said, serving me a generous portion. Remember how you used to help him in the kitchen? I remember paying for his heart medication after making that lasagna, I replied, setting my fork down. Let's skip the nostalgia and get to the point. My father cleared his throat. The bank is being insistent. Banks tend to be that way about money. We've looked at our options, my mother cut in. We could sell the lake property. The one I was supposed to inherit? I laughed. The one you were mortgaged for Valerie's wedding? You're not being fair, my father said quietly. I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. Let's talk about fair. Inside was a spreadsheet, every dollar I'd given them over the years, meticulously documented with dates and reasons. Page 1. Dad's medical bills, $28,000. Page 2. Valerie's art school tuition, $40,000 of my college fund. Page 3. The down payment for Valerie's first car, $12,000. Should I continue? I asked. My mother pushed the folder away as if it might bite her. We're not here to dwell on the past. No, you're here because the collection agency is drowning you in calls. We raised you, my father said, his voice trembling slightly. At 80, he looked frailer than I remembered, the veins on his hands standing out like blue rivers on a weathered map. We gave you everything. You gave Valerie everything, I corrected. I earned everything I have. When I was 50, the memory surfaces like a bubble in still water, and I finally saved enough for a down payment on the lake house I dreamed of since childhood. The same week, my parents had called about their property taxes being in arrears. Just until next month, they'd promised. I never saw that money again, and the lake house went to another buyer. On my phone buzzed, a text from Teresa. How's the ambush going? Before I could respond, my mother reached across the table and grabbed my hand. Darling, please, we can fix this together. For the family. The family? I pulled my hand away. Where was this family concern when I worked 2 jobs to pay for Dad's surgery while Valerie posted Instagram photos from Europe? She was finding herself. And now she's lost herself in another country with $300,000 of debt that you co-signed for. My father stood up suddenly, his face red. We thought you wouldn't actually enforce the contract. We thought you'd understand. That it was okay to take advantage of me again? That family protects each other? My mother interjected. I stood up, pushing my untouched plate away. Funny how that protection only goes one way. We'll lose the house, my father said quietly, his false bravado collapsing into genuine fear. Then sell the lake property. But that was supposed to be your inheritance. My mother protested. My inheritance? I pulled up Valerie's latest Instagram post on my phone. Her and Brian on the beach of that same lake property last summer, living rent-free. Like how I was supposed to inherit it last year before you let them stay there rent-free? My parents exchanged guilty looks. You knew, I said, realization dawning. You knew they were planning to leave the country. My mother's silence was answer enough. You helped them plan it. I continued, the pieces falling into place. You thought I'd just what? Pay off their debt like I've paid off everything else? You're stronger than Valerie, my father said weakly. You can handle these things. There it was again. That phrase. The curse that had shaped my entire life. You're stronger than your sister. You don't need as much support. You'll figure it out. You can handle it were words that had once been meant as praise, but had become the chains that bound me to a lifetime of financial servitude. Not anymore. I grabbed my purse. Call the collection agency. Set up a payment plan. Sell whatever you need to sell. I'm done handling things. Catherine, please. My mother called after me. What will people think? I turned at the door. They'll think you're finally facing consequences. How does it feel? Outside, I sat in my car for a long moment, hands shaking on the steering wheel. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Brian, using a new phone. Got your little message about the visa issues. Real cute. But you forgot something. I know things about your company, things that could hurt your career. Want to reconsider your position? I forwarded the message to Teresa with 3 words. Time for phase 2. Her response was immediate. Let's bury them. Back at home, I poured myself a glass of wine and opened my laptop. In a folder labeled insurance, I had copies of every questionable email Valerie and Brian had sent about their plans to default on the loan, every conversation about fleeing the country, every piece of evidence showing my parents' knowledge and compliance. I drafted a new email to the loan agency's fraud department. I have information regarding a premeditated loan default. My phone rang, my mother again. I declined the call and hit send on the email instead. Sometimes, I whispered to my empty apartment, the best family dinner is the last one. Flashback 25 years ago. The memory hits me like a physical blow as I drive home. I was 30 years old, standing in my parents' kitchen, the same kitchen where we just had our confrontation. The counters were newer then, the cabinets a different color, but the dynamic was exactly the same. I don't understand, I said, staring at the bank statement in my hand. This was my down payment fund. I've been saving for 5 years. My mother bustled around, not meeting my eyes. It's just a loan, Catherine. Valerie needs the money for her design school application portfolio. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So is buying my first home. My voice cracked with frustration. I've been working 60-hour weeks for this. You're stronger than she is, my mother said, using the phrase that had become her standard explanation for every inequity between us. You can rebuild your savings. Valerie. She's more fragile. This rejection could break her spirit. My father sat at the table, newspaper raised like a shield. Listen to your mother, Catherine. Family helps family. Then why doesn't family ever help me? The question hung in the air between us, unanswered. Don't be selfish, my mother finally said. Valerie has such potential. This could be her big break. I looked at them both, my mother's practiced concern, my father's strategic absence behind his newspaper, and suddenly saw with perfect clarity the roles we'd all been assigned. Valerie, the fragile artist who needed protection and support. My parents, the enabling guardians of her dreams. And me, the reliable workhorse expected to sacrifice without complaint. Fine, I said finally. But this is the last time. It wasn't the last time, of course. It was merely the first time I recognized the pattern that would define the next 25 years of my life. The whistleblower 1 week later. The anonymous tip took less than 24 hours to detonate. I was at my desk when Teresa burst into my office, her tablet displaying multiple social media feeds. It's happening, she said, turning the screen toward me. Someone leaked parts of the loan documentation to a financial whistleblower site. The story was going viral. Valerie's Instagram comments had exploded overnight. Her latest beach photo was flooded with responses. Must be nice to live in luxury while running from debt. How do you sleep at night knowing your sister's paying for your lifestyle? Financial frauds living their best life. My phone buzzed. Ryan again. What did you do? Our sponsors are pulling out. I typed back. I didn't do anything. The truth did. Another notification popped up, an email from my father. Subject line. We need to talk. I opened it. Meeting at the house, 7 p.m. Come alone. Teresa read it over my shoulder. Trap, obviously. I closed my laptop. But I'm going anyway. Want backup? No. It's time to finish this. The house looked smaller than I remembered, its shadows longer in the evening light. My father sat alone on the porch steps looking older than his 80 years, more hunched, more fragile than the imposing figure of my childhood. Your mother's not here, he said as I approached. I asked her to let me handle this. Handle what? He pulled out a stack of papers. We found these in Valerie's old room. She left them behind when they ran. Email printouts, bank statements, text messages. A complete paper trail of their plan to take the money and run. You knew, I said quietly. You knew all along. We thought. He rubbed his face with trembling hands. We thought you wouldn't actually go through with the clause. You never go through with consequences. You always fix things. Not anymore. The collection agency called again. They're talking about fraud charges now. Criminal charges, Catherine. I said nothing, letting his panic hang in the air between us. Actions have consequences, he said, and I nearly laughed at hearing my own words echoed back to me. He looked up at me, eyes wet behind his bifocals. She's your sister, and I'm your father. Did that ever matter? The question cut deeper than I expected, piercing through the armor of righteous anger I'd wrapped around myself. Yes, I said finally. It mattered so much that I spent 30 years letting you all take advantage of it. Silence stretched between us, heavy with decades of unspoken resentment. We got a call from Valerie an hour ago, he finally said. Their visas are being revoked. Eric's business partners are backing out. They're stranded. Karma is not very subtle, is it? Can't you stop this? I sat beside him on the steps, keeping a careful distance. Remember when I was 16 and I wanted to go to that summer programming camp? He stared straight ahead. You said we couldn't afford it. But 2 months later, Valerie needed a new laptop for her photography hobby. Premium model, top of the line. Catherine, I'm not fixing this, I said, standing up. I'm not fixing anything ever again. My phone buzzed, a video call from Valerie. I answered it where my father could see. They're freezing our accounts. Valerie was crying, mascara running. Brian's partners are saying something about fraud investigations. What's happening? The truth is happening, I said calmly. How's that working out for you? We're stuck here. The embassy won't help. Our cards are declined. Sounds like a you problem. Dad, she wailed, seeing him in the frame. Tell her to stop this. He looked between us, lost. I don't know how. That's right, I said. For once, you don't know how to fix things for her. Interesting feeling, isn't it? Valerie's face contorted with rage. You evil, jealous bitch. I ended the call. My father stood slowly, papers clutched in his trembling hands. What do you want from us? I looked at him, this shell of the man who had once seemed so powerful in my childhood eyes. I want you to sit in this mess you helped create. I want you to feel what it's like when no one comes to save you. I want you to understand what you did to me all these years. We loved you. No, you used me. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Teresa. The fraud department wants to schedule an interview. Ready for the final nail. I looked at my father, this broken man who had always chosen the path of least resistance, who had let my mother and sister drain me dry year after year. I have to go, I said. I have a meeting about fraud charges. Please, he whispered. We're family. I paused at my car. That stopped meaning anything the day you chose her over me for the last time. As I drove away, I watched him in my rearview mirror, still clutching those damning papers, standing alone in the growing darkness of the house where I'd learned that blood means nothing when it's always flowing one way. At Catherine's office, the final confrontation. The collection agency moved fast. Within a week, they began garnishing my parents' assets. I watched from my office as their lake property listing went live, the same property I'd dreamed of inheriting, now priced for a quick sale. My mother showed up unannounced, makeup perfect despite her red-rimmed eyes. They're taking everything. Not everything, I said, not looking up from my computer. Just what you put at risk. Why are you doing this to us? I'm not doing anything. The contract is. She slammed her hand on my desk. Look at me when I'm talking to you. I met her eyes. Like you looked at me when I begged you not to take my college fund? That was different. Yes, you keep saying that, but it wasn't different. It was just another time you chose Valerie over me. My phone buzzed, an email from the fraud investigation team. Interview scheduled with Valerie and Brian via video conference. Your presence is requested. They're investigating Valerie for fraud, my mother whispered, reading over my shoulder. Our baby girl could go to jail. Should have thought about that before helping her plan an international loan default. She sank into the chair across from me. How did you become so cold? I learned from the best. I turned my screen to show her Valerie's latest social media post, a tearful video about being victimized by toxic family. She's scared, my mother said. She's manipulating again, but this time it won't work. My phone rang. Teresa. Turn on the news, she said without greeting. Local business channel. I pulled up the live stream. There was Brian being escorted from a business meeting by security. The headline scrolled. Local startup founder under investigation for international fraud. My mother covered her mouth. Oh God. Actions, consequences, I said quietly. Funny how that works. They're stranded, she pleaded. Their visas are expired. Their accounts are frozen. Like my accounts were frozen after paying Dad's medical bills? When I had to eat ramen for 6 months while Valerie posted photos from Paris? The office door opened. My father walked in looking defeated. The lake house sold, he said, below asking, but enough to cover part of the debt. Congratulations, I said. You're learning financial responsibility. Only took 80 years. Catherine. My mother tried again. We can still fix this as a family. We were never a family, I cut in. We were a support system for Valerie. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. This is Brian. Please, we're desperate. The embassy won't help. Valerie's having panic attacks. Name your price. I showed the message to my parents. See? Now he wants to negotiate. Funny how that happens when the money runs out. What are you going to do? My father asked. I typed a response. My price? Everything you took, plus interest. Calculate it. I'll wait. They don't have that kind of money, my mother protested. Neither did I when you took my college fund. Neither did I when Dad needed surgery. Neither did I when Valerie needed bail money that one time. But somehow, I managed. My computer pinged, an email from the fraud investigators requesting additional documentation. I have a meeting to prepare for, I said, standing. You can see yourselves out. Wait, my father said. The house. They're talking about a lien. Then I guess you better start packing. My mother burst into tears, real ones this time, not the manipulative sobs I'd grown up with. Why did you do this to us? She cried. I walked to the door and held it open. You did this to yourselves. I just put it in writing. After they left, I sat back down and opened my email. Valerie had sent a long, rambling apology, the kind she always wrote when she needed something. I deleted it without reading. Teresa appeared in my doorway. Ready for the fraud interview tomorrow? Ready to end this, I said. They're your family, she reminded me gently. No, I replied, pulling up the final piece of evidence. Photos of my parents helping Valerie pack for her escape, dated 2 days before the wedding. They're just people who share my DNA. Family would never have done this. My phone lit up one last time, a text from Valerie. I'm sorry. I mean it this time. Please help us. I typed back 6 words. Sorry doesn't pay back 300,000. Then I turned off my phone, opened the fraud investigation files, and began preparing my statement. Tomorrow would be the final nail, the one that would seal not just their fate, but the coffin on every family tie that had ever bound me to their manipulation. It was time to end this story on my terms. Epilogue. 1 year later. The lake is perfectly still this morning, reflecting the autumn foliage like a mirror. I sit on the dock of what is now legally my home, reading the final notice from the collection agency. Debt resolved through asset liquidation. Case closed. My phone buzzes. Teresa, sending me a news article. Local couple detained at border attempting illegal re-entry. I smile despite myself. Valerie and Brian had tried sneaking back into the country through Mexico after their extradition request was approved. It hadn't gone well for them. Another buzz. My mother. They're holding them for questioning. Please help. I type back. New phone. Who's this? The fall breeze picks up, carrying golden leaves across the water's surface. My laptop chimes with an email from the fraud investigators. Thank you for your cooperation. Charges have been filed. Good. I whisper to the lake. A car door slams behind me. I turn to see my father walking down the path to the dock, looking lost in his now too large sweater. At 81, he seems to have aged a decade in the past year. The house sold, he says, sitting heavily on the bench beside me. We're moving into an apartment next week. Downsizing can be healthy, I reply, unsure why he's here, what he wants. Your mother. He pauses. She's not handling it well. And nothing. He picks up a leaf and watches it spin between his fingers. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to say you were right. I close my laptop. About everything. We failed you. We let Valerie drain you dry. We. His voice cracks. Weren't parents to you. We were enablers to her and users of you. Took you long enough to notice. I saw the spreadsheet, he continues. The one with all the money you gave us over the years. Did you know the total equals almost exactly what your mother and I lost in assets? The lake house, the savings accounts, the investments. Karma's good at math. He pulls an envelope from his jacket. This was in Valerie's old room. It's addressed to you, dated the day before the wedding. I open it. Inside is a note in Valerie's handwriting. Dear Catherine, by the time you read this, we'll be gone. Thanks for being such a reliable ATM all these years. Don't worry, Mom and Dad will guilt you into fixing this too. They always do. Love, Valerie. She never saw you as a sister, my father says quietly. And we never saw you as a daughter. We saw you as a solution. I fold the note carefully. And now we see you as someone we lost through our own actions. He stands up, brushing leaves from his pants. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just saying you were right to do what you did. My phone buzzes again. Teresa. Incredible news. Valerie and Brian are facing federal charges. Your parents' statement sealed it. I look up at my father. You testified against them? We told the truth, he says simply. Finally, he turns to leave, then stops. That spreadsheet, the total you gave us over the years, would have bought this lake house, I finish, gesturing to the property behind us. His eyes widen slightly. You bought it? You had to sell. I had the cash. I stand up, brushing leaves from my legs. Funny how things come full circle. He nods once, understanding the finality of it all, and walks away. I watch him disappear up the path, a smaller man than I'd ever seen him, carrying the weight of consequences he'd spent a lifetime avoiding. My phone lights up with a video call. Valerie, from a detention center. I answer it. They're charging us with fraud. She sobs. Mom and Dad testified. How could they? How could you leave me with $300,000 in debt? That's different. We're family. Not anymore. I hold up my house keys. Remember this view? The lake house you loved so much. It's mine now. Legally, permanently, and you're never stepping foot in it. You bitch. I end the call and block the number. Teresa appears at the top of the dock, carrying 2 champagne glasses. Ready to christen the new house properly? Almost. I pull up my banking app and look at my accounts. All in the black. All in my name only. No co-signers. No family loans. No guilt. To karma? Teresa says, handing me a glass. To contracts, I correct, but then smile, softening for perhaps the first time in months, and to finally choosing myself. We clink glasses as the sun breaks through the clouds, painting the lake in shades of gold. My phone stays silent. No more family emergencies. No more guilt trips. No more manipulation. Just peace, property in my name, and the sound of water lapping against the shore, washing everything clean. Sometimes revenge doesn't roar. I think to myself as we walk back to the house that finally, rightfully belongs to me. Sometimes it whispers in legal documents and property deeds. Sometimes it looks like finally closing the door on the people who never saw you as anything but a solution to their problems. Sometimes, just sometimes, it feels exactly like freedom. This will destroy him completely, Father says, his face ashen as he stares at his phone. The FBI will have everything they need to prosecute. I shrug, gathering my presentation materials. Sounds like justice to me. Justice? Mother's voice rises to that familiar pitch I've heard countless times in my childhood. He's your brother, Eleanor. Was my brother. I correct her, feeling the weight of 45 years of accumulated disappointment pressing against my chest. The same brother who sabotaged my business by spreading rumors, who you always said had real ambition, while I was just playing entrepreneur. Through the window of my office, I can see the manicured lawns of my estate stretching toward the horizon. The guest house where my parents have been living for the past 5 months sits at the far edge, small but comfortable, nothing like their former mansion. Nothing like the life they've lost. Sometimes I wonder who I've become. The girl who once desperately sought her parents' approval now watches coolly as they scramble to save the son who betrayed them. The woman who built a multi-billion-dollar company now uses that power to orchestrate her brother's downfall. Yet, as I stand here, surrounded by the trappings of success they never believed I could achieve, I feel strangely hollow. This meticulously planned revenge should taste sweeter. Thomas's words from this morning echo in my mind. Are you sure this is what you really want, Eleanor? Will it heal what's broken? I don't know. But after 15 years of silence, after a lifetime of being the daughter they never wanted, I'm finally being heard. Through the doorway, I see reporters gathering, cameras flashing. Miss Clark, they call out, any comment on your brother's fraud scandal? I smoothed down my Armani suit, the kind mother always dreamed of wearing, and prepared to face the press. The final act of my revenge is about to begin. But first, I glance back at my parents, diminished, aging, frightened. For a fleeting moment, I see past their facade to the flawed, broken people underneath. And I wonder, when this is all over, who will I be? Flashback the wedding day. The wooden pews of St. Mary's Church felt hard beneath me 15 years ago. I'd chosen a simple cream dress, nothing extravagant. Thomas squeezed my hand as we waited, both of us stealing glances at the back of the church. They're not coming, are they? Thomas whispered, his voice gentle but firm. I shook my head, fighting back tears that threatened to ruin my drugstore mascara. I'd invited them, of course. How could I not? Despite everything, they were still my parents. The invitation had been met with silence, then a terse phone call from Mother. A small church wedding? What will people think? Yet some foolish part of me had hoped they might appear at the last minute. That father might walk me down the aisle. That mother might dab at her eyes with a delicate handkerchief. The minister is ready for you, Carol whispered, squeezing my shoulder. My best friend since college, the only person besides Thomas who truly saw me. As we walked down the aisle, I noticed two figures slip into the back pew. My parents had come after all. Relief washed over me, quickly followed by a different emotion as I took in their expressions. They sat stiffly, faces carefully arranged in neutral masks. They hadn't come to celebrate. They'd come to observe, to judge. Just 2 months earlier, Michael had gotten married in a $300,000 ceremony at the Plaza Hotel. Mother wore Valentino and cried perfect tears while father gave a speech about legacy and pride. I stood in the back wearing the bridesmaid dress they'd chosen, watching them beam at their golden child. The contrast couldn't have been starker. My wedding took exactly 35 minutes. When Thomas and I exchanged our simple gold bands, all we could afford on our combined salaries, I glanced back at my parents. They were already preparing to leave, checking watches, gathering coats. They didn't attend the small reception at our friend's restaurant. When I checked my phone later that night, there were 3 messages, all from Mother. This is embarrassing, Eleanor. A church wedding with no proper reception? What will people think? Your father is devastated. We raised you better than this. Michael says Thomas will never amount to anything in that line of work. I remember standing in our kitchen, surrounded by takeout containers from the Chinese place downstairs, our wedding feast. Thomas found me there, tears streaming down my face. Remember that consulting business we talked about? He said, opening his laptop. The one for helping companies streamline their IT infrastructure? I wiped my eyes. The one nobody wants to fund? Screw funding, he started typing. We have our brains. We have our experience. Let's build something they can't ignore. That night, we worked until dawn, sketching out business plans on paper napkins. Every rejection, every snide comment, every disappointed look from my parents, we transformed into determination. I was 40 years old, starting over after a career as a corporate IT specialist. Thomas was 42, leaving behind the security of his programming job. Most people would call us crazy. My parents certainly did. You're throwing away good careers for some pipe dream, Father had said when I told him our plans. At your age, you should be planning for retirement, not taking risks. But we had nothing to lose except the weight of their expectations. Flashback at the formative years. I was 7 years old the first time I realized I would never be enough for my parents. Michael had just won the school spelling bee, and mother had thrown a party complete with a banner and a special cake. When my turn came the following year and I also won, there was only a distracted, "That's nice, dear," as they focused on Michael's science fair project. It was the beginning of a pattern. Michael's achievements were celebrated, mine acknowledged. Michael's dreams were invested in, mine tolerated. It wasn't that they didn't love me, in their way. I believe they did. But Michael was the firstborn son, the one who would carry on the family name, the one who fit their idea of success. Father had been a moderately successful insurance salesman, always striving for a status he couldn't quite reach. Mother had been a high school teacher, obsessed with appearances and what her colleagues thought. Both of them had transferred their unfulfilled ambitions onto Michael, the handsome, charismatic son who seemed destined for greatness. And me? I was the quiet one, the one who preferred computers to people, who found solace in logic and code when human relationships proved too painful to navigate. Eleanor lives in her own world. Mother would tell her friends, a slight edge to her voice. She's not a people person like Michael. I grew up watching Michael charm his way through life, leveraging his good looks and social skills while I worked twice as hard for half the recognition. He went to Harvard on our parents' dime. I earned a scholarship to Stanford. When I graduated top of my class in computer science, my parents skipped the ceremony because Michael had a networking event. Stanford's fine for a backup school, Father had said when I received my acceptance letter, but it's no Harvard. At least you got a free ride since we're saving the college fund for something more prestigious. The college fund that went to Michael's MBA. The one he used to learn how to create elaborately disguised Ponzi schemes, apparently. At the apartment, the decision after our wedding, Thomas and I moved into a modest apartment in the suburbs. We converted the second bedroom into our office, working late into the night to build our consulting business while keeping our day jobs. The early days were lean. We lived on ramen and coffee, pouring every spare dollar into our startup. When Google offered to double my salary to stay in my safe programming job, I turned them down. We had bigger dreams. The first investor meeting was terrifying. 5 men in suits looking skeptically at our presentation, at our gray streaked hair, mentally calculating our age and dismissing us before we'd even begun. But our demo worked perfectly, and by the end, they were fighting to write us checks. That was 10 years ago. Now, at 45, I sit in my glass-walled office overlooking the Los Angeles skyline. Our company, Clark Consulting, is valued at just over $2 billion. Thomas runs operations while I handle strategy and development. We have over 300 employees. I never sought reconciliation with my parents. The occasional Christmas card, the dutiful phone call on birthdays, these were the extent of our relationship. They never visited our offices, never asked about our success except in the most superficial ways. Their focus remained on Michael, the investment advisor with the golden touch, the son who drove a Porsche and belonged to the right clubs. I built my life without them, brick by brick. I found value in what I created, not in what they thought of me. Or so I told myself. The parents' arrival, Carol, my assistant and the same friend who witnessed my wedding, knocks on my door. Her face is unusually serious. "Eleanor, security just called. There are people at the gate." I turn to my monitors, clicking through the security feeds. The camera shows two figures I haven't seen in person for nearly 2 years, not since Michael's second wedding. They look smaller somehow, diminished. Mother's designer clothes are wrinkled. Father's normally perfect hair is unkempt. "They're saying they're your parents," Carol continues, her voice tight with protective anger. "Should I have security remove them?" I zoom in on the feed. Mother is crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Father keeps looking over his shoulder like he's being hunted. They look desperate, broken. My finger hovers over the intercom button. Part of me wants to leave them standing there, to let them feel a fraction of what I felt all those years ago. But that would be too easy, too quick. "Let them in," I say finally, my voice steady. "Have James escort them to the main house. Tell them I'll be there shortly." Carol raises an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" I stand up, smoothing down my suit. "Absolutely. It's time for a family reunion." My phone buzzes. A text from Thomas. "I saw who's here. Want me to come home?" I type back, "No, stay at the office." I've been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Looking out over the city, I allow myself a small smile. They thought a modest church wedding was beneath them. Wait until they see what their disappointment of a daughter has planned for them. The conference, the security feed didn't do justice to how badly they had aged. As I walked down the staircase of my home, I barely recognized the two people standing in my foyer. Mother's carefully maintained blonde highlights have given way to gray roots, and father's proud posture has collapsed into a permanent stoop. "Eleanor," mother whispers, taking a step forward. "You look successful." I keep my distance, gesturing to the living room. "Please sit. Would you like something to drink? Water, tea?" "We have a lovely Darjeeling that costs about what you spent on Michael's wedding cake." They shuffle to the cream-colored sofa, perching awkwardly like birds ready to flee. Father clears his throat. "Water would be fine." "Carol," I call out. She appears instantly, tablet in hand. "Water for my guests, and the Darjeeling for me." "Right away," she says, shooting my parents a look that could freeze hell. "Your house is beautiful," Mother ventures, her eyes darting around the room. "We had no idea you'd done so well for yourself." "You would have if you bothered to read any business magazines in the last 5 years," I reply, settling into my favorite armchair and crossing my legs. "Or opened any of the Christmas cards we sent, or attended any of the industry events where I gave keynote speeches." Father's face reddens. "We've made mistakes, sweetheart. Don't." My voice cuts through the air like a blade. "You lost the right to call me that when you told the country club I was finding myself instead of admitting I was building a tech company." Carol returns with the drinks. I take a slow sip of tea, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. "We need help," Mother finally blurts out. "Everything's gone. The house, the cars, our savings." "Let me guess," I interrupt. "Michael's investment scheme finally collapsed?" Their shocked faces confirm it. I pull out my phone, scrolling through news alerts. "I've been tracking this. Rising star falls. Foster capital under federal investigation," I read aloud. "Investors lose millions in suspected pyramid scheme." My favorite is this one. "Golden Boy empire built on sand." "How did you know?" Father asks. I smile. I've had a private investigator tracking Michael's business dealings for years. The moment he started moving money through shell companies in the Caymans, I knew it was just a matter of time. "You've been spying on your own brother?" Mother's voice rises with indignation. "No, I've been protecting myself from my own brother," I correct her. "The same brother who told potential investors not to waste their money on my quaint little startup 5 years ago." A memory surfaces, their voices carrying through the country club's dining room 3 years ago. "Michael's going to revolutionize Wall Street." "Oh, Eleanor." "She's just playing with computers, like a hobby, really. We have nowhere else to go," Father admits, his voice breaking. "Your brother, he convinced us to invest everything. Our retirement, our equity. And now you're here," I finish, "hoping your disappointment of a daughter might help." Mother starts crying. Perfectly timed tears, just like at Michael's wedding. "We're family, Eleanor, despite everything." "Family," I stand up, walking to the floor to ceiling windows. Funny how that word only matters when you need something from me. "The arrangement, please," Father begs. "Just until we can get back on our feet. We can stay anywhere. A spare room, even a garage." I turn back to them, my expression carefully neutral. "Actually, I do have a proposition for you. Not exactly cash, but an arrangement." Hope flickers across their faces. "Poor, desperate fools." "We have a guest house," I continue. "It's comfortable. Nothing like your old mansion, but it has the basics. You can stay there for 6 months." "Oh, thank God," Mother breathes. "But there are conditions." I sit back down, leaning forward. "Non-negotiable ones." "Anything," Father promises quickly. I catch Carol's eye, and she begins typing on her tablet. "First, you'll earn your keep. There are daily chores, maintenance tasks. You'll work for your room and board." Mother's mouth falls open, but I continue before she can object. "Second, no contact with Michael at all. If I find out you've spoken to him, you're out immediately. But he's your brother, mother starts. Third, I speak over her. We'll have weekly family dinners here in the main house. And during these dinners, you'll listen. Really listen to everything you've missed in the last 15 years. Father's face has gone pale. What do you mean, listen? I smile, the same cold smile I've perfected in countless boardroom negotiations. Oh, I have so many stories to tell, starting with a church wedding you couldn't be bothered to attend properly. The silence stretches between us like a chasm. Finally, Mother nods, defeated. We'll do it. Excellent, I stand up. Carol will show you to the guest house. Your first dinner is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Don't be late. As they follow Carol out, I hear Mother whisper, Richard, what choice do we have? None, I think, watching them shuffle across my manicured lawn. That's exactly the point. Flashback the turning point. When Thomas was hospitalized with pneumonia during our startup's second year, I called my parents for help. We couldn't afford good healthcare yet, and the bills were mounting. We're stretched thin, Mother had said, with Michael's wedding planning. I remember sitting in the hospital corridor, phone clutched in my trembling hand, as she explained why they couldn't possibly spare $30,000 for Thomas's treatment while they were spending $300,000 on Michael's wedding. It's already booked, Eleanor. What do you expect us to do? Cancel the plaza? In that moment, something inside me broke. Or perhaps something hardened. I hung up without another word and called everyone I knew, borrowing smaller amounts from multiple friends. Carol gave us her entire savings. Thomas's brother mortgaged his house. Thomas recovered, slowly, painfully. And I made a promise to myself. I would succeed so spectacularly that one day, they would have to come to me. And when that day came, I would remember everything. The family dinners, at precisely 7 p.m., my parents stand awkwardly in my dining room, wearing the clothes they arrived in yesterday. Mother keeps fidgeting with her wrinkled silk blouse, while father stares at the elaborate place settings. You'll be serving tonight, I announce, settling into my chair at the head of the table. The kitchen staff has prepared everything. You just need to bring it out. Serving? Mother's voice cracks. Like waiters? Exactly like waiters, I smile. The dishes are labeled. First course is the soup. They exchange glances before father shuffles toward the kitchen. I hear a muffled argument. Then they emerge carrying bowls of butternut squash soup. Their hands shake as they set them down. Do you remember my graduation dinner? I ask, stirring my soup. The one you skipped because Michael had a networking event? Mother nearly drops the bread basket. Eleanor, that was. I just finished top of my class in computer science. Full honors. 3 job offers already lined up. I take a sip. The soup's getting cold. You should sit. They sink into their chairs, looking lost without their usual airs of superiority. I went to that dinner alone, I continue, sat at Olive Garden by myself, wearing my graduation robe, while other families celebrated around me. The wound is old, but it still throbs when touched. I was 32 years old, accomplished and proud, sitting alone in a chain restaurant while at the same time, across town, my parents were attending a cocktail mixer for Michael's business connections. The waitress felt so bad, she gave me free dessert. We sent the card, father mutters, with a $50 check, the same week you bought Michael a BMW for landing his first internship. I set down my spoon. Main course now, please. The salmon, the revelation. As they serve the fish, I pull out my phone, showing them a news alert. Look what just hit the wire. Federal investigators expand probe into foster capital fraud. Michael's really outdone himself this time. He made some mistakes, Mother defends weakly. Mistakes? Stealing millions? Destroying people's life savings? Your retirement? I cut into my salmon. Tell me, did he mean to convince you to remortgage your house to invest in his guaranteed return scheme? Father's face crumples. We trusted him. Like you trusted that I was making a mistake marrying Thomas? How's that judgment working out for you? A notification pings on my phone. Security alert. I pull up the camera feed to see a familiar figure lurking near the back gate. Speaking of poor decisions, I murmur, your golden boy is trespassing on my property right now. Their heads snap up. Michael is here? Don't worry. Security will handle it. I type a quick message to my head of security. I'm curious. Did you tell him where you were staying? He called earlier, Mother admits. We just said we were safe, that's all. Strike one, I say coldly. Remember our agreement? No contact with Michael. He's desperate, Mother bursts out. The FBI froze his accounts. His wife left him. He's sleeping in his car. Sounds like a him problem. I stand up, walking to the window, watching security escort my brother off the property. Through the glass, I see his face, not the confident mask he usually wears, but desperate, angry. For a moment, I see the little boy who used to pull my hair and steal my toys, the teenager who took credit for my science project, the man who has spent his life taking the easy path while I fought for every inch. There's no satisfaction seeing him like this, only a hollow feeling that surprises me. The turning point, after a month of weekly dinners, my parents have settled into a routine. They work in my gardens during the day, serve my meals in the evening, and listen to my stories. Stories of struggle, of determination, of success achieved despite their neglect. I watch them age before my eyes, their shoulders drooping further with each revelation. Each dinner peels away another layer of their denial, forces them to confront another harsh truth. Remember when Thomas got sick? I asked during our fifth dinner. During our startup's second year, he worked himself into pneumonia, but we couldn't afford good healthcare yet. Mother's hand trembles as she sets down her fork. We all make mistakes, Eleanor. I called you, I continue, asked to borrow $30,000 for his treatment. You said you were stretched thin from Michael's wedding planning. We didn't realize, Father starts, that he might die. My voice could freeze hell. That your daughter's husband was in critical condition while you were picking out $1,000 centerpieces? What do you want from us? Mother bursts out. We've apologized. We're literally serving you dinner in our gardening clothes. How much more humiliation do you want? I lean forward. Humiliation? You want to talk about humiliation? Let's talk about my church wedding. The one you told everyone was a youthful mistake. The one where you said Thomas would never amount to anything. We were wrong, Father admits. Obviously wrong. Look at all you've built together. No. I stand up, walking to the window. You don't get to admire what we built. You don't get to claim any part of our success. You get to serve dinner and listen. That's our deal. A car pulls up to the gate. A familiar luxury sedan. I smile. Right on schedule. Speaking of deals, I turn back to them. Look who's arrived. Your golden boy himself. They rush to the window, watching Michael argue with security through the intercom. Please, Mother begs. Let him in. He's desperate. Desperate people make desperate choices, I muse. Like convincing their parents to invest their retirement in a Ponzi scheme. Father's face crumples. We trusted him. Yes, you did. Blindly, completely, destructively. I press the intercom. Security, please remind Mr. Foster that he's trespassing. If he doesn't leave immediately, call the police. You can't do this, Mother protests. He's family. Family? I laugh. That word keeps coming up. Tell me, where was family when you chose his networking events over my achievements? Where was family when you watched me struggle while funding his excesses? Through the window, we watch Michael's car speed away, gravel spraying behind him. Sit down, I order. Dinner isn't over. Tonight's final story is about the day I made my first million. The day I bought this house. The day I finally understood that your approval meant nothing compared to what I built without you. They sink back into their chairs, defeated. In the distance, police sirens wail, probably heading for Michael's last known location. Now then, I smile, raising my glass. Who's ready for dessert? I believe humble pie is on the menu again. The setting sun casts long shadows across their faces, painting a portrait of karma served cold, one course at a time. The unexpected ally. Your brother's ex-wife is here to see you, Carol announces, standing in my office doorway. She says it's urgent. I look up from my laptop, surprised. Rebecca hasn't contacted me since her divorce from Michael 3 years ago. Send her in. She enters wearing designer clothes that look slightly worn, her perfect manicure chipped at the edges. The fall from grace had clearly begun before the public scandal. Eleanor, she says, taking the seat I offer. You look successful. Amazing what hard work and ethical business practices can do, I reply. What brings you here, Rebecca? She pulls out her phone, hands shaking slightly. Michael sent me this last night. I thought you should see it. The text message reads, Tell Dad to take the fall. FBI doesn't have enough on me yet. He can claim he masterminded everything. His age will get him a lighter sentence. Wow, I say softly. Throwing your own father under the bus. That's low, even for him. He's spiraling, Rebecca confirms. Called me crying at 3 a.m., talking about fleeing to Mexico. I thought you should know what he's planning. I study her carefully. Why are you really here, Rebecca? Last I checked, you were firmly Team Michael during the divorce. She laughs bitterly. Team Michael? He asked me to lie to investors, forge documents. When I refused, he threatened to ruin me. Said no one would believe the trophy wife over the golden boy of Wall Street. And now I want justice. She leans forward. I have recordings, Eleanor. Phone calls, meetings, everything. I started documenting when things felt wrong, but I was too scared to come forward. I pressed the intercom. Carol, get Thomas in here and call David. Within minutes, my husband and our private investigator join us. Thomas's eyes widen when he sees Rebecca. Well, this is unexpected, he says, taking the seat beside me. Show them, I tell Rebecca. She plays the recordings. Michael's voice fills the room, bragging about dummy corporations, laughing about fooling investors, planning to blame others when it all fell apart. With each recording, my parents' chances of claiming ignorance grow stronger. This is exactly what we need, David says, taking notes. Combined with the financial records we've been tracking, this proves premeditation. You've been tracking him? Rebecca looks at me sharply. I've been collecting evidence for years, I admit, waiting for the right moment. God, she whispers. You're even more strategic than he is. Difference is, I use my powers for good, I smile. Usually. My phone buzzes. A text from the security gate. Speaking of strategy, our parents are requesting an urgent meeting. Apparently, Michael has been calling them nonstop. Perfect timing, Thomas says. Should we show them what their precious son is planning? I stand up, straightening my jacket. Better idea. Let's have a full family reunion. Rebecca, are you up for a confrontation? She squares her shoulders. After what he put me through? Absolutely. The final confrontation. 20 minutes later, my parents sit nervously at the dining table while Rebecca waits in the study. They jump when Carol enters. He's here, she announces. I take my position at the head of the table. Showtime. Michael bursts in looking disheveled in his wrinkled suit. Mom, Dad, we need to move fast. I have a plan. He freezes when he sees me. Hello, brother, I say calmly. Please join us. We were just discussing family loyalty. What is this? He demands, looking at our parents. Sit down, Michael, I order. You'll want to be sitting for what comes next. I'm not playing your games, Eleanor, he spits. Mom, Dad, we need to go now. They're not going anywhere, I say. But someone else is joining us. On cue, Rebecca walks in. The color drains from Michael's face. Remember those late-night phone calls? She asks sweetly. The ones where you planned to blame your father? I recorded them all. Michael lunges for the door, but security blocks his path. Now then, I smile, pressing the intercom. Carol, please tell our friends from the sect they can come in. I believe my brother has a confession to make. The look of betrayal on Michael's face was almost worth the decade of pain he'd caused. Almost. You set me up, he whispers. No, dear brother, I correct him. You set yourself up. I just made sure everyone could see it. The SEC agents enter as our parents watch in horror, finally understanding the full scope of their golden child's deception. Justice, I think, watching them lead my brother away, tastes better than revenge. The aftermath. You can't do this. Michael struggles against the agent's grip. Mom, Dad, tell them. Tell them I was doing this for the family. Mother sits frozen, mascara running down her face. Father stares at his hands, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Mr. and Mrs. Foster, the lead SEC agent says, we'll need your statements about your involvement in your son's investment scheme. I stand up, smoothing my skirt. Actually, I have something that might help clarify their role. I nod to Carol, who brings in a thick folder. Financial records showing my parents were victims, not accomplices. Bank statements proving they invested their retirement based on fraudulent information. Eleanor, what are you doing? Michael hisses. Saving them from you, I reply calmly. One last time, the SEC agent flips through the documents. This is very thorough. It clearly shows they were misled about the nature of the investments. You can't trust her. Michael shouts. She's been plotting this for years. Plotting what? I ask innocently. To preserve evidence of your crimes? To protect our parents from your schemes? Yes, guilty as charged. Rebecca steps forward, holding up her phone. I have the recordings ready, Agent Roberts, including the ones where Michael explicitly discusses hiding information from his parents. Mother finally finds her voice. You were going to blame your father? Your own father? I had no choice. Michael's composure cracks. The investments went bad. People were asking questions. Dad's name was on some of the paperwork. Paperwork you forged, Rebecca cuts in. Just like you forged my signature on those offshore accounts. As they lead Michael away, he thrashes against their grip, his perfectly tailored suit now wrinkled and damp with sweat. You'll regret this, Eleanor, he shouts. You think you're so perfect with your tech empire and your revenge. You're nothing but a bitter middle-aged woman playing businesswoman. I walk up to him slowly, maintaining eye contact. No, Michael. I'm the woman who beat you at your own game. The difference is I did it legally. Everything I built is real. Everything you built was a lie. After they take him away, silence falls over the dining room. Mother's quiet sobs are the only sound. Why? Father finally asks. Why did you protect us after everything we did? Because I'm not like him, I say simply. Or you. I don't destroy family for personal gain, even when they deserve it. We don't deserve your mercy, Mother whispers. No, you don't. I sit back down. But this isn't mercy. This is strategy. You'll spend the rest of your lives knowing that the daughter you dismissed saved you from the son you worship. Rebecca gathers her things. I should go. The SEC will need me to make a formal statement. Thank you, I tell her, for being brave enough to come forward. After she leaves, I turn back to my parents. Your 6 months in the guest house isn't over. You'll continue working, continue attending our dinners, but now you'll do it knowing exactly what your choices have cost you. And Michael? Mother asks tremulously. He'll likely serve 15 to 20 years, I reply, unless he makes a deal. But given his performance today, I doubt he'll admit guilt easily. Father stands up shakily. We should have seen it. All those signs. You saw exactly what you wanted to see, I correct him. Just like you saw what you wanted to see in me. A disappointment, a failure, an embarrassment. We were wrong, Mother says. So terribly wrong. Yes, you were. I pressed the intercom. Carol, please escort my parents back to the guest house. They have roses to prune tomorrow. As they shuffle toward the door, I call out. Oh, and one more thing. Those documents protecting you from prosecution? They're real, but they can disappear as easily as they appeared. Remember that the next time you're tempted to contact Michael. They nod, broken and humbled, before following Carol out. The riffle. Thomas comes in after they leave, wrapping his arms around me. You okay? I lean into his embrace, finally allowing myself to feel the weight of what has just happened. I thought revenge would feel better than this. It's not revenge, he says softly. It's justice with a side of mercy they didn't earn. The mercy is the revenge, I reply. They'll spend the rest of their lives knowing they owe everything to the daughter they rejected. That's a debt they can never repay. Through the window, I watch my parents cross the lawn to their temporary home, their shoulders bent under the weight of their choices. Come on, Thomas says. Let's go home. To the real home where we started. That little house where we dreamed all this up. I smile, remembering those determined days 15 years ago. You still have those paper napkins with our first business plan framed in your office, he grins. Right next to our wedding photo. As we drive through the city to our old neighborhood, memories wash over me. The constant struggle for my parents' approval. The pain of always being second best. The weight of never being enough. Do you remember what you said to me on our wedding night? Thomas asks, reaching for my hand. I nod. I was crying about mother's messages, and you told me we'd build something they couldn't ignore. And we did, he says simply. But as we pull up to our old house, the modest suburban home we've kept all these years, renovated but unchanged in its essence, I wonder if that was ever really the point. We never had children. I told myself it was because of our careers, the demands of building a company. But sometimes, in quiet moments like this, I wonder if it was fear. Fear that I would somehow replicate the pattern, that I wouldn't know how to love unconditionally when I had never experienced it myself. What are you thinking? Thomas asks as we step onto the porch. I'm thinking about cycles, I reply. About breaking them. Inside, our first home feels warm, lived in despite being our weekend retreat. No marble floors or crystal chandeliers here. Just comfortable furniture, bookshelves crammed with technical manuals and fantasy novels, framed photos of us hiking, traveling, building our life together. Sometimes, I say, sinking onto our old couch, I wonder what it would have been like if they had just loved me, just as I was. Thomas sits beside me, his hand finding mine. They couldn't. They were too broken themselves. And now I've broken them. No, Eleanor. Michael broke them. Their own choices broke them. You just made sure they couldn't keep breaking you. I rest my head on his shoulder, feeling suddenly exhausted. I've spent 15 years planning this revenge. Now it's done. What do I do with all that energy? Build something new, he suggests. Something that has nothing to do with them. That night, in our old bedroom, with city lights filtering through the blinds, I dream not of revenge or justice, but of creation. Of tearing down the guest house on my estate and building something in its place. Something that transforms pain into purpose. The morning after, the morning sun streams through my office windows as I review the final paperwork. My parents' 6-month stay had ended yesterday, and they left quietly, without ceremony or goodbye. Just a simple note. We understand now. Carol knocks on my door. The construction crew is ready for the groundbreaking. Everyone's waiting in the courtyard. I gather my things, including a worn paper napkin in a simple frame. Our original business plan, sketched out in that modest house so long ago. Outside, a crowd has gathered around the cordoned-off area where the guest house used to stand. In its place will rise the Clark Consulting Innovation Lab, a training center for women over 40 interested in technology careers. Thomas waits for me at the podium, grinning. Ready to build something new? Always. I squeeze his hand before turning to address the crowd. 15 years ago, I begin. I was told I was too old for tech. That my dreams were too big, my background too conventional, my ambitions inappropriate for a woman my age. My voice carries across the hushed crowd. Today, we break ground on a center dedicated to proving those doubts wrong. The audience applauds. In the back, I spot Rebecca, who gives me a small wave. After testifying against Michael, she found her voice and a new career in corporate compliance. Success isn't about pedigree or privilege, I continue. It's not about youth or conformity. It's about persistence. Every woman who walks through these doors will learn that lesson. They'll learn that validation doesn't come from family approval or society's expectations. It comes from creating real value in the world. As I lift the ceremonial shovel, my phone buzzes. A text from my mother. Saw the announcement about the innovation lab. finally understood what you meant about real value. We're sorry. I slipped the phone back into my pocket without responding. Some bridges couldn't be rebuilt and shouldn't be. After the ceremony, Thomas and I walked the grounds, stopping at the spot where the guest house had stood. No regrets about demolishing it? He asks. None, I reply. Best to build something meaningful than preserve a monument to revenge. Carol approaches with a tablet. The press releases are going out, and there's news about Michael. He took a plea deal this morning. Let me guess, turned on all his co-conspirators? She nods. 10 years with possibility of parole. He's also required to make full restitution to his victims, including your parents, Thomas adds quietly. They made their choices, I say, watching the construction crews begin their work. Just like I made mine. Flashback to the defining moment. I was 15 when I first understood that I would never be the child my parents wanted. Mother had found me coding late at night, creating a simple game on our family's first computer. Eleanor, this is not appropriate for a young lady, she'd said, flipping off the monitor. You'll strain your eyes and ruin your complexion sitting in front of this thing all hours. Why can't you take an interest in something more feminine? Michael is the one who needs to understand technology for business. But I enjoy it, I protested. I'm good at it. Being good at something unusual isn't the point. Fitting in is what matters. Who will want to marry a girl obsessed with computers? That night, I'd cried myself to sleep. But the next day, I got up early and continued coding before school. I couldn't articulate it then, but I'd made a choice to pursue what called to me, even if it meant disappointing them. It would take decades before I understood that their disappointment was never really about me at all. It was about their own narrow vision, their own insecurities, their own failed dreams that they tried to live through their children. The new beginning, back in my office, I open my desk drawer and pull out an old photo. My wedding day. Thomas and I, middle-aged but full of hope, standing on those church steps. I place it next to the framed napkin. Miss Clark, Carol's voice comes through the intercom. The first round of applications for the Innovation Lab has arrived. Send them in, I reply, then turn to Thomas. Want to help me find the next tech revolutionaries? He sits beside me, just like that night in our kitchen 15 years ago. Always. As we read through the applications, stories of determination, of dreams bigger than circumstances, I realized something profound. My revenge hadn't just been about making my family suffer. It had been about proving that their values were hollow, that real success comes from creating, not destroying. Look at this one, Thomas points to an application. Reminds me of someone I know. Brilliant ideas, no support system. Family thinks she's having a midlife crisis. I smile, reading the woman's passionate pitch. Schedule an interview and send her a message. Your dreams are not too big. Your ambitions are not inappropriate. And yes, you absolutely belong here. The construction sounds outside grow louder. Destruction and creation happening simultaneously. Perfect symmetry. You know, Thomas says, your parents might see these scholarship stories in the press. They might try to reach out again. They might, I agree. But I'm not that desperate daughter anymore, waiting for their approval. I'm not even that angry woman plotting revenge. I'm just me, building something real. He kisses my forehead. And that's why I married you in that church. I look out at the construction site where the future is literally taking shape. My parents had taught me about power through cruelty. Michael had taught me about success through deception. But I'd learned something better. True power comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. The sun sets over Los Angeles, painting my empire in shades of gold. Not the false gold of my brother's schemes, but the real gold of innovation, of creation, of genuine value. They thought my church wedding was too humble for their status. They never understood that humility combined with determination builds empires that last. And that's worth more than revenge could ever be. As night falls, I stand at my window, 45 years old, scarred but not broken. Behind me lies a path of pain and triumph. Before me stretches a future I am finally free to shape on my own terms. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's rising so high that those who hurt you have to look up to see you. And then, when you've reached that height, realizing that you no longer need them to see you at all.